Welcome back to another learning series with Mr. Knight. Now, today's topic will be on the carbon cycle. Now, the carbon cycle is simply a demonstration of the cycling of carbon in the atmosphere, okay? And these carbon will be in different forms. So carbon could be in different forms, which we refer to as carbon compounds. So throughout the presentation, you'll hear me talk about carbon compounds. And so carbon is not just simply carbon, but in various forms, okay? All right, just to bear it in mind. So note again is that the carbon cycle involves changes between inorganic and organic carbon compounds, all right? And I list a few of these. So inorganic compounds will be, for example, carbon dioxide and also carbonates. Okay, so those two organic compounds will be the common ones that we'll be talking about throughout the cycle. And the organic compounds include glucose, which is a form of carbohydrate, and fossil fuel. Okay, fossil fuel, you can also have oil, coal, and so on. All right, but we're going to talk about them as we get into the cycle. So firstly, I want you to notice that the cycle involves a lot of processes, all right, and also we will discussing each of these process, okay? So we're going to get into them quickly, and let's look at this one, which is photosynthesis, all right? And so photosynthesis is the process by which plants and plant-like organisms turn carbon dioxide into sugars. Okay, the sugar that we normally talk about here is glucose, all right? Now, again, to note is that photosynthesis, folks, is the only process that takes carbon out of the atmosphere, okay? It is the only process that actually does that, all right? In its natural form, by the way, all right? Now, before I move on, I wanted to consider some other definition for photosynthesis. Okay, and one will be plant converting inorganic substances to organic substances. Another one will be carbon dioxide reacting with water in the presence of light to produce glucose and oxygen. Okay, there's a very simple definition, but there's a reason why I don't list it here, because it simply states the process by which green plants make their own food. The reason I'm not discussing that one or even list that one here, because it is not demonstrating or actually explaining the use of carbon dioxide. So since we're in the carbon cycle, we're only talking about those processes that involve carbon or carbon compounds. Okay, so let's go back to the cycle for another process. Now, respiration. Before I even press on this, I want you to note something here, is that I list two respiration, okay? You have respiration from the animals and you have respiration from plants, okay? But I want to, well, when I go to the process, you will see why I have two. As a matter of fact, I could have more than one respiration here, okay? And so let us look at it. Now, respiration is the process by which living organisms, and we're talking about all living organisms, convert organic materials such as glucose into energy. So they are converting glucose. And remember now, folks, glucose is a carbon compound. Why glucose is a carbon compound? Because glucose is C6, which means 6 carbon, H12, which is H hydrogen, and O6, which is 6 oxygen. So indeed, carbohydrates or glucose, they are a form of a carbon compound. Okay, now after respiration, then carbon dioxide is produced and it is cycled throughout the environment, okay? So once respiration takes place, you produce carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide is released in the atmosphere, all right? So let's jump into another process, all right? Let's look at diffusion. Now, diffusion is simply a process by which molecules move from an area of higher concentration, meaning a lot of particles are there, to an area of lower concentration, which means less of that same particles are in that area. So the particles are moving from where there is a lot to a place where there is less. Okay, and that is simply diffusion. So now carbon dioxide can diffuse from the atmosphere, which is a lot of carbon dioxide there, into the water where there is less. So this statement states that carbon dioxide diffuses into water to allow photosynthesis by marine autotrophs, which are plant-like organisms or even plant, such as algae. We talked about zooxanthellae before in another lesson. So zooxanthellae is an algae that photosynthesize. Generally, all algae will do. And you also have seaweed that requires some carbon dioxide for their photosynthesis. Okay. It's also very important to note that when these marine organisms respire, they will excrete carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide will diffuse out of the atmosphere. As this statement states, that carbon dioxide diffuses out of water after organisms respire and excrete carbon dioxide. Okay, so diffusion is very important to put carbon dioxide in water and also take carbon dioxide out of the water. Okay, all right, so let's go back to another process. And another process here, let's look at decomposition, folks. Now, decomposition is done by decomposers, which we also refer to another lesson. So you could check on those previous lessons about decomposition, decomposers. And so decomposition is a process by which dead organic substances are broken down into simpler organic molecules. And again, folks, this process is done by bacteria, which we are called decomposers, okay? Now it's very important to also understand that once decomposition takes place, we have some useful products that are released. And some of these products include carbon dioxide, and that is released in the atmosphere. We also have water formed. We have plants' nutrients become available. And we also have fossil fuel. But let's stick a pin right there. If you look at the pictorial, all living things, when they die and decay and break down by decomposers, will form a rich soil molecule, which are our portion that we call humus. And this humus become rich in plant nutrients. Okay? But if the remains of the dead substance stays in the environment for a long period of time, which we're going to talk about in a short while, it will form something called fossil fuel. And so fossil fuel could be a big result from decomposition, which is very useful to all of us today. But let's go back to the cycle, and you will go into the process, or even look at fossil fuel a little bit, just for it a little bit to see what's happening there. Okay, so let's check out fossil fuel. Now, fossil fuel, they are combustible products, which mean they can catch fire, okay? They can ignite, all right? And such examples include coal, oil, and natural gas, okay? All right, and of course, they are formed from a decayed organism. But quite important to note, folks, is that fossil fuels are formed over a long period of time when pressure is exerted on dead remains. Now, folks, for the fact that fossil fuel takes so long to form, we classify this source of energy as non-renewable. So fossil fuel are non-renewable because they take a very long time to replace, okay? We have other sources of energy such as wind, water, and the sun, which is solar energy. They are always there, and in fact, they replace easily if you should use up that form of energy, okay? So it's very important for us now to even know this, that fossil fuel is a very important fuel, but we have to be mindful of its use and how we use it. Hence, we may lead even to pollution. But let's jump into combustion first and talk about that. All right, so combustion. Now, this is a process by which the fuel, including fossil fuel, all right, or organic substances are burnt in the presence of oxygen to produce energy. Okay, so energy is produced when you combust any form of material. So once there's fire caught to any material, it is known as combustion. But very, very important to note at this point, folks, is that combustion releases carbon dioxide, all form of combustion, all form of burning. So driving your cars, producing electricity, lighting a piece of paper, wood, grass, whatever you burn will produce carbon dioxide. Now the danger in this now, folks, the more you produce carbon dioxide, which is a ozone gas, I will tell you. It will trap the radiation from the sun, which is heat, and that heat will get the Earth surface much warmer. The warmer the Earth becomes, it can lead to other dangers, such as flooding, because when ice cap melt, then it can lead to flooding. Okay? And so it's very important for us to take carbon dioxide out. And if you notice in the cycle again, folks, plants or plant-like organisms are the only thing that take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So the process of photosynthesis is the only thing that takes carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Okay? So, folks, it's very important also to note that. Now, going back to the cycle, again, just to have one more look at it. So these are the processes involved: photosynthesis, respiration, diffusion, decomposition, and combustion. All right, so folks, I know, thank you for being here, and we're at the end of the lesson, and I want you to keep watching, subscribe, and please share, so we keep this learning episode going. All right, I see you in the next lesson.